Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. I'm very excited to share with you guys my most highly anticipated new book releases for 2025. I've been filming this video for every year that I've been making book videos, and it's one of my favorites that I look forward to filming every year. I personally just love having new book releases to look forward to. It's one of my favorite things, and I love watching other people do these videos. I feel like I find so many new books to add to my TBR that I wouldn't have heard about otherwise. So I hope you guys find lots of new books to add to your TBR for 2025 as well. This is by no means all the books coming out next year. These are just the ones that I cannot wait to pick up and read, and I feel pretty confident I'm gonna rate highly. So with that, let's jump into talking about the new releases. The first book coming out very early in the new year is Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This comes out on January 7th, and this is actually her third book in her When in Rome series, which I'm not gonna lie has not been my very favorite from Sarah Adams, but I do feel like the books have been getting better and better. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of book one, When in Rome, but I liked Practice Makes Perfect a lot more, and I feel like as the series goes on, we're gonna be following more sisters in the same family, and the other sisters I definitely find a lot more intriguing than the characters we followed previously. They just seem a bit more mature, and I feel like they have very interesting backstories. So this book is actually not following the sister I thought we would be following. We kind of got crumbs of another sister's romance at the end of Practice Makes Perfect, but the sister we're following in this book is actually Emily Walker. She is a teacher, and it says it's a rivals to lovers romance when her nemesis Jack Bennett comes to town. It sounds like he left from Kentucky with his fiance, and then they broke it off and he moves back to town. And they are also neighbors as well, and then they're undercover writers. So Emily writes romance novels under a pen name, and then I think Jack secretly writes mystery novels as well. It says she accidentally sends an email to their school's principal that could reveal her secret literary side hustle. She needs to steal back her manuscript, and she ends up teaming up with her nemesis Jack to help her get it back. So it sounds like it's gonna be a fun storyline and a bit different from the other books in this series, because it sounds like it's gonna have a bit more tension and angst. I personally love when Sarah Adams does like a rivals story, because her books are just so sugary sweet and cute. I don't know, I kind of like when she mixes it up and has a little bit more tension and a little bit of the rivalry. I feel like it's just such a fun trope. So I'm excited to follow more sisters in this series and very excited for this book. The storyline sounds so fun. And then on January 14th, Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney is coming out. This is a thriller that I am so excited for. I haven't picked up an Alice Feeney book in a little bit, but this one I cannot wait to read. I'm gonna read you guys what it says on Goodreads as the synopsis, because I don't think I can explain it better than the way it's worded here. It says, author Grady Green is having the worst best day of his life. Grady calls his wife to share some exciting news as she's driving home. He hears his wife Abby slam on the brakes, get out of the car, and then nothing. When he eventually finds her car by the cliff edge, the headlights are on, the driver door is open, her phone is still there, but his wife has disappeared. And then a year later, it says he's still struggling with grief. He's desperate to know what happened to his wife Abby. He can't sleep, he can't write, so he ends up going to this tiny Scottish island to try to get his life back on track. Then he sees the impossible, a woman who looks exactly like his missing wife. Wives think their husbands will change, but they don't. Husbands think their wives won't change, but they do. That sounds crazy. It's giving rock, paper, scissors. It sounds so similar. It's very much giving troubled marriage, keeping secrets, even like the Scottish island. I cannot wait for this one. I'm gonna be reading it very soon after it's released. I feel like it's gonna be so twisty and so good. And then on January 21st, I cannot wait for book 3 in the Empyrean series to come out, which is Onyx Storm. I'm currently rereading Iron Flame, so I will be ready. Everything will be fresh in my mind. I actually loved Iron Flame so much more than I loved Fourth Wing. I feel like that's a very unpopular opinion, but I just personally loved the character development and the romance and just where the story went. I was so fascinated by it, and it ended on the biggest cliffhanger, so I cannot wait, but I'm also scared to see how things are gonna play out in Onyx Storm. I just can't wait to be back with these characters and back in this world and see where everything is gonna go. I'm very excited. I've been anticipating this book for what feels like forever now. And then I cannot wait to read Deepend by Alice Ali Hazelwood. This comes out on February 4th, and this sounds a little bit different from what she normally writes. This is actually a college sports romance, which if you have been here for a little bit, you will know that college sports romances, or just sports romances in general, are my favorite. I just love them. I love sports and I love romance. They're my two favorite things. So those two things in one book is the best thing ever for me, and I cannot wait to see how Ali Hazelwood is going to write a college sports romance. So I think this one follows our female main character Scarlett, who is a diver at Stanford, and then our male main character is the swim captain named Lucas. I think they're both training to go to the Olympics, and it says they start an arrangement because a secret slips out. So I think it's gonna be fake dating because it says it's a mutually satisfying fling. I cannot wait for this one. I'm sat. I feel like I'm gonna absolutely love it. Then on March 4th, Wildside by Elsie Silver is coming out. This is book 3 in her Rose Hill series. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the one book on my list that I'm the least excited for, just because this series has not been hitting for me as much as the Chestnut Springs series did. I'm holding out hope that there's gonna be one book in this series that really hits for me, but so far it just hasn't been hitting the way her previous books have. And this couple and this book in particular, I don't know, we got crumbs of them in book 2, and what we saw of them, I was intrigued, but I don't know if I'm necessarily super excited to read a full-length novel about them. But it sounds like our male main character in this, Reese, is very broody, very secretive, and then our female main character, Tabby, it says when her nephew's guardianship is contested, she'll do whatever it takes to keep him in Rose Hill, even if it means marrying the enemy, Reese Dupree. So that's where the marriage of convenience, single parent, single dad trope, I guess, comes along. So I don't know, again, what we saw of this couple, it seems like they very much disliked each other, and there was definitely a lot of question marks, especially around our male main character. There's definitely some weird history there, definitely some reasons why they don't like one another, which I'm sure we'll figure out, and I don't know, they just seem very mysterious. So I wasn't necessarily excited about this couple, but we'll have to see. I love the way Elsie Silver writes tropes that I don't normally like. I feel like she does a really good job with them, so I have no doubt that she'll do this well. I just don't know if it'll be my favorite based on how the series has gone for me so far, but we will see. Her books are very bingeable and very easy to read, and I do love her writing. And then in April, we are getting fed Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Comes out on April 1st. This is probably my #1 most highly anticipated release for next year. I love Abby Jimenez so much. She has solidified herself as one of my favorite authors this year, especially. I've given several of her books 5 stars, and I have no doubt that this one is going to be a 5-star as well. I feel like she just keeps getting better and better as an author. This book follows Xavier and Samantha we got a little tiny cameo of in Just for the Summer. I don't want to give too much away, but she was the girl who was sitting on the bench at the bus stop, I believe. That's all I'm gonna say. It was a very teeny tiny scene, but that's where we first were introduced to her, and now she's getting her own book with our male main character, Xavier, who is a veterinarian. It says that he seems perfect until he opens his mouth and proves that even sculpted gods can say the absolute wrong thing. Of course, there's nothing Samantha loves more than proving an asshole wrong, unless of course he can admit he made a mistake. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. I feel like Abby Jimenez does meet cutes really, really well, but I feel like one thing I love about her books is she always writes very like soft golden retriever type male main characters, and Xavier sounds like he's not going to be golden retriever. It sounds like he's going to be a little bit of a jerk to start. I'm sure we'll grow to love him, but I'm curious to see if that will affect how much I love the book and how much I love the characters and the romance. But I'm still very confident that I'm going to rate this one highly because of how much I love Abby Jimenez and her books, and the story sounds very, very interesting. Also on April 1st, we're getting a new release from Beth O'Leary called Swept Away. This one sounds like it's going to be such a good summer romance. We're following Zeke and Lexi, and they have a one-night stand. It sounds like they're having it on Zeke's late father's houseboat, and they forget to tie the boat back up to the dock, so it ends up drifting out to sea, and they're kind of like stuck there, so forced proximity situation. It sounds like they're also dealing with a lot of complicated things in their personal lives as well, but I just love this setting of them being stuck on this boat together out at sea. I feel like it's gonna be so fun. I think it's gonna be very humorous. I feel like Beth O'Leary does British rom-coms so well, but this one, because it's set on a boat out at sea, again, sounds like it'll be so good for the summertime, so I cannot wait to pick this one up next year. And then Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry comes out out on April 22nd. Every time I see this title, I want to say Great Big Beautiful World, Where Are You? Like the Sally Rooney book, but it's Great Big Beautiful Life. And this one is very much giving beach read vibes mixed with a little bit of Evelyn Hugo, because we have rival authors and they're both trying to write this famous heiress's life story, and they're both like competing for the chance to write the story, and I guess in the process there's a romance between the two of them. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about it. I know I'm gonna enjoy it, but unpopular opinion, beach read is actually my least favorite Emily Henry book. But regardless, I'm sure I'm gonna rate it at least 4 stars or higher, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. I've also heard that one of the inspirations for this book is The Last Great American Dynasty by Taylor Swift, which is one of my favorite songs by her. So I feel like that's going to be very interesting to kind of see the inspiration. That song is very lyrical and very much tells a story. So I feel like it will translate really well into book format. But I'm excited. I'm interested to see how similar this one feels to Beach Read and what I'm going to think of it. And then on April 24th, Rewind It Back by Liz Tomford is being released. This is Rio's book. It's part of the Windy City series. This is book 5. I cannot wait for this book. I feel like if you're a fan of this series, we have all been highly anticipated and waiting on Rio's book, which excites me but also scares me, because I feel like the past few releases where I have been anticipating a character's book, it's let me down a little bit. And in each of those cases, the character has been like the sweet golden boy, kind of the comedic relief character, and that is exactly how Rio is in this series. Literally all Goodreads says is that this is Rio and Hallie's book, and that's all I need to know. I actually don't know who Hallie is. I don't remember if we were introduced to her previously. We might have gotten a little snippet, but Rio's book is what I've been looking forward to. It is book 5 in the Windy City series. I cannot wait. I will say I'm excited because the Windy City series, if you are unfamiliar, it is a sports romance series, and it kind of varies in what sport we're following. So book 1 was Mile High, and it was a hockey romance. Book 2 was a basketball romance. Books 3 and 4 were baseball romances, and then book 5 is bringing it back to another hockey romance, which I have a very unpopular opinion about this series in terms of which books are my favorites. Mile High book 1 is actually my very favorite. I loved it so much. It was almost a 5-star read for me, and that tends to be the one that a lot of other people don't like. I sometimes hear people say, oh, skip over book 1, it sucks, just start with book 2, and that breaks my heart because I loved book 1 so much. I can definitely see why it gets the criticisms that it does, but I personally loved it. It worked for me. I love hockey romance. So I'm hoping that since this is another hockey romance, I'll feel the same about it. And I hope Rio's book doesn't let me down. I cannot wait. Okay, then jumping into May, we have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune coming out on May 6th. I am very confused. Every time I've tried to read the synopsis on Goodreads for this book, I get more and more confused on what this book is about. But what I do know is that our main character in this book is actually Charlie from her debut novel, Every Summer After. I had no idea he was getting a book of his own, but that is very exciting news. And also we're gonna get a little cameo of Sam and Percy from Every Summer After. So I think it'll be interesting to kind of see the dynamics based on what happened in Every Summer After, kind of see the timelines and how everything is going to play out with Charlie's romance. I think our female main character's name is Alice. So again, I get confused when I read the synopsis, so I kind of just want to go in blind. I don't know the tropes, don't know anything, but it sounds like there is a history between our two main characters. So very, very excited. I've kind of had mixed feelings on Carly Fortune's books. I loved her debut, gave it 5 stars. Her next 2 books, I rated both 3.75 stars, so I enjoyed them, but not nearly as much as Every Summer After. So it'll be interesting to see if this book kind of trends in the direction of me feeling just okay about it, or if I end up loving it as much as the first book, since we're getting repeat characters. I don't know how I'll feel, but I feel like she does write very great summer romances. The settings always hit. They always take place at the lake in Canada, and they feel very atmospheric. So I love them for that, and I do love her writing so much. And then besides Say You'll Remember Me, I think this other book is the one I'm most excited for. Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid is coming out on June 3rd. This was such a surprise for me to hear about, because I could have sworn in a recent interview I heard with Taylor Jenkins Reid, she was saying how she was kind of ready to take a break from writing for a while because she'd had so many back-to-back books released and they were all so successful that she was kind of taking a break for a bit, and it would be a while before we had a new book from her. So I was not expecting anything anytime soon. So this was the most pleasant surprise. I cannot wait, and it's so funny. I love what this book is about and when it's set. When it comes to her historical fiction books, she has written in almost every single decade except for the 80s. I feel like there might have been a little bit touched on in that decade, but she's never written an 80s book, and the 80s is one of my favorite moments in history. So I was wanting an 80s book from Taylor Jenkins Reid, and that is what we're getting. Not just an 80s book, but it's set during the space shuttle program era, which I love space. I love learning about all things space history related, NASA, just all that fascinates me so much. And this one, we're following our main character, Joan Goodwin. She's a professor of physics and astronomy at Rice University. She ends up coming across an advertisement that NASA is seeking the first women scientist. So that's when she applies, and then she begins training at Houston's Johnson Space Center. So that's really all I need to know. I don't want to know any more details. I want to find out for myself as I read, but I just love how she writes about these strong women characters, and I'm especially excited for the setting and the time period. I feel very confident that this is going to be one of my favorite books of next year and a 5-star read, so I am so excited. And then Riley Sager is releasing a book in 2025. It is called With a Vengeance, and the release date is June 10th. I'm going to read the Goodreads synopsis because it sounds so fascinating to me. It says, "One train, no stops. A deadly game of survival and revenge. In 1942, 6 people destroyed Anna Matheson's family. 12 years later, she's ready for retribution. Under false pretenses, Anna has lured those responsible for her family's downfall onto a luxury train from Philadelphia to Chicago, an overnight journey of 14 hours. Her goal is to confront the people who wronged her, get them to confess their crimes, and deliver them into the hands of the authorities waiting at the end of the line. Justice will at last be served. But Anna's plan is quickly derailed by the murder of one of the passengers. As the train barrels through the night, it becomes clear that someone else on board is enacting their own form of revenge, and that they won't stop until everyone else on the train is dead." So it's very much giving me a Murder on the Orient Express vibes. I cannot wait. I also love that it's set like in the 40s and 50s. I feel like the vibes are going to be so fascinating and so interesting. I love the setting. I love the whodunit kind of aspect. I feel like I haven't read a mystery like that in a while. So I cannot wait. I feel like it's going to be very like claustrophobic, them all on this train. I feel like it's going to be very fast-paced and thrilling. Riley Sager is definitely an auto-buy author for me. Even though I kind of rated his books all across the board, I still generally enjoy all of them, and I think he's a great thriller author. So very excited to read this one. And then book 4 in the Vancouver Storm series is coming out on June 17th. This is called Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer. We definitely got a good glimpse at the couple that we're following in this book in the previous book. This is following Alexi, another guy on the same hockey team, and then our female main character is Georgia, who we got a good bit of, and I definitely did like what we saw of her character in the previous book as well. The tropes in this one aren't my favorite. It's marriage and convenience, grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers, but I love hockey romances. I've loved every book in this series so far, and I feel like Stephanie Archer does tension so well. These books are so bingeable. You've probably heard me talking about these books this year because I recommended them so many times. I've just become obsessed with this series. I definitely would say book 2 is my favorite, followed closely by book 1. Book 3 was just okay for me, so I'm hoping that I enjoy book 4 a bit more, but we'll see. Either way, these books are so fast and easy to read, so I can't wait for another book in this series. Also on June 17th, we're getting another Ashley Poston release, which is Sounds Like Love. This book sounds like another magical realism type book between a songwriter and a musician, and it sounds like they both have a song stuck in their head, and Joni is the songwriter who's trying to find the musician singing the song stuck in her head, and then our male main character has the lyrics stuck in his head, and they both find one another because of this song that is drawing them to one another and this magical connection, and they end up both working together on this song. And I think when they meet one another, they're not what the other person expected, so I'm really excited. I've only read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston and loved it. I've heard the best things about The 7 Year Slip. It's been on so many TBRs this year, I just haven't had time to pick it up. And then her latest release, A Novel Love Story, it got kind of mixed reviews. I definitely still want to read it, but I love that this one has like the musical backdrop to it. I feel like it's going to be so good, so I can't wait. I definitely need to read more from Ashley Poston before this one comes out. And then Lisa Jewell has a new book coming out next summer on June 24th. Don't Let Him In is going to be released, and I need to read the Goodreads synopsis again for this one because it sounds so fascinating. So we're following Patty Swan, and it says his life connects 3 different women's lives together. He was the life of the party until one day a man pushed him in the path of an oncoming train, leaving his daughter Ash and his wife Nina devastated. Shortly after his funeral, the 2 women receive a surprise in the mail, a note and package from a guy named Nick Ratcliffe, an old friend of Patty's. And then Martha is another woman who, it says, she's a small town florist with dreams of expansion. She lives with her second husband Al, her baby, and 2 sons from a prior marriage. But they never seem to have any money, and with his constant traveling for work, she feels like a single parent, especially when an emergency makes her realize something needs to change. But Nick and Al may not be who they say they are, leading these 3 women, Martha, Ash, and Nina, on a shocking collision course, wishing they had heeded a warning. Don't Let Him In. So that sounds so thrilling. I feel like Don't Let Him In could have a few different meanings. I'm curious to see what's gonna take place. This past year, I became obsessed with Lisa Jewell after reading None of This Is True. It's actually the last book I read that I gave 5 stars to. So that has me so excited to read more from Lisa Jewell, and this next release coming out sounds so thrilling and so entertaining. Okay, and the last book on my list, I'm so excited because finally we're getting another full-length novel from ML Rio. She released a little novella this year that I read, but I've just been craving another full-length novel from her. Hot Wax is coming out on September 9th, and the little synopsis on Goodreads is very short, but it sounds so interesting. It says, this book is a nostalgic love letter to the 90s rock and roll scene. Hot Wax follows a band of rocker misfits, rivals, and trailblazers on the tour that could have catapulted them to superstardom if it all hadn't come crashing down. That to me is giving Daisy Jones and the Six, but make it a thriller, which I'm assuming this is a thriller. I feel like she writes darker books, more like mystery vibes. So this one sounds so interesting. I cannot wait. And it says cover to be revealed, but the little cover that we're already getting looks so cool. I feel like I would be satisfied if that was the cover. But very, very excited. Again, sounds like Daisy Jones and the Six, but if it was a dark, twisty version. I feel like it's coming out at the perfect time too. It's like right before spooky season. The vibes are just gonna be perfect. And those are my most highly anticipated new releases for 2025. I'm sure as the months go on, we'll learn about even more new releases coming out over the course of the year, but I cannot wait for these books to come out. I was looking back at my previous videos like this that I filmed in other years, and I've done a pretty good job at reading all the new releases I was anticipating. Last year, I think there were only like 2 or 3 that I didn't get to pick up, but I own them and definitely plan to read them at some time. I just haven't had a chance to yet. So I'm pretty good when it comes to reading new releases. I feel like I get FOMO and just want to know what everyone's talking about. And I feel like as a book content creator, I want to be able to give you guys my opinions on all the new latest and greatest things that are being released. So cannot wait for these books. Let me know what you guys are most excited about in 2025, what you're planning to pick up. If you are looking forward to any of the same books as I am, let me know down below in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give me a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss out on any future book content, both in the remainder of 2024 and in 2025 from me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you so soon in my next video. Bye guys.